All right. Hello and welcome to the Debt Rebel podcast. Today is an extra special episode because we have a guest on the show today, another financial wizard, someone that enjoys talking about finances as much as I do. And Caleb and I initially connected online and have found out we have a lot in common. And so I wanted to invite him on the show today to share his story, his perspective, and his unique way of coming at financial planning and just getting ready for retirement life when you might see things a little bit differently. I want to welcome Caleb Bogia-Curles to the Debt Rebel podcast. Caleb, you are a certified financial planner. You live in kind of like the opposite area of the US from myself and in the Seattle area. And I would just love it if you would tell me a little bit, and share with the listeners a little bit about you, your family, and your story and how you got to this point today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jewlz, thank you so much for having me here on the show. Definitely an honor to be here. So yeah, it's been fun connecting with you. Awesome to see the great things that you're building here, the ways that you're able to help a very similar type of people to what I do. We just kind of have different services that
Mm-hmm.
almost parallel each other rather than overlap. And so it works really smoothly. So I'm a certified financial planner. I almost cringe at the label, a financial advisor. I prefer to call myself a financial planner, but just to help give maybe some listeners some context. But I own my own wealth management firm out in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I could say the greater Philadelphia area, but I kind of like that we're known for being the capital of the Amish here in this country. So
Yeah.
unique thing about us. It's a fun place to live and raise a family. So my wife and I have 5 kids. At my firm, we have 2 minor part-timers at this point, but really I do try to spend a lot of time at home. So I work just shy of a full-time schedule while growing the firm. And out of our 5 kids, 2 of them are both on the autism spectrum. One of them is also ADHD. I'm both as well. So I thought it was only ADHD for the longest time. And that was even when I built the whole firm around, okay, we're going to serve ADHD people, business owners in particular, just as more of a technical niche. But the affinity niche is certainly neurodivergent folks. And then right as I was launching, found out that I also had the autism piece. I was like, that's a big wrinkle I didn't plan for. I even wrote this thing called the money guide for ADHD business, like a 200-page book. I didn't even know I had autism too. That's embarrassing. So it was just kind of odd, but I've incorporated that into it as well. And I think it helps to explain a lot of my love of the spreadsheets, the nerdier side of the plans, and why I get burned out after 4 meetings in a day.
Right? I know it's kind of like this journey, not just like on our financial journeys, but on our personal journeys of learning, the way our brains work and the things that we enjoy and how we can get hyper focused in some areas and struggle in others. And that's what I love to kind of support listeners of the show in that area, because especially with the money side, and we've talked a little bit about this, like such a it is such a challenge when you're seeing things through a different lens than the rest of the world might, and trying to just feel like you're putting a square peg in a round hole, like in a financial sense. And you're just like, I don't know, this isn't working. I would love it if you would share, was there like a specific, maybe it's a personal experience, maybe it's a particular client that made you realize that this, like that traditional way of managing money and the financial advice side, doesn't work for the ADHD or neurodivergent brain?
Yeah, totally. I like most flashes of inspiration, they come not when you're working, they come in totally other random times. So like vacation, the shower. Mine was driving a sick kid to the pharmacy after the doctors. And so it just struck me as like, wait a minute, everyone in my industry is always like, you need a niche, you need a niche clientele. I couldn't really figure one that really appealed to me. And it just dawned on me like, wait a minute. People call the clients who just naturally gravitate towards me, oh, those are Caleb clients. Oh, haha. Because they always cancel their meeting last second. They show up 10 minutes late. They take forever and a day to sign paperwork. And on the whole, they were high earning business owners making a couple hundred, sometimes a few $1,000s a year per person. And yet they just didn't have too much to show for it. Like maybe 30 grand for one or a couple hundred for another, where you would expect a couple million with an income like that. If you're talking of a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, someone very analytical, disciplined, consistent, focused. And it dawned on me I wonder if they're all ADHD, all these people. And I just kept thinking more through that. Is this even a niche? I don't know. Nobody in my industry has ever done something like this before. And that's eventually how my firm was born. I just dug into it more heavily and realized there are large scale PhD level studies out there showing a proven 500% or 5 times more likely link from people with ADHD to start a business. And so I just realized, like, this is me. I've got a little box full of a variety of business cards from things that I've started over the years that were
Hmm.
basically like a paid business course more than anything profitable. And like that's just my own background. My wife would lovingly shake her head at now that I've been in this one long enough to say, yeah, this is the future after years as a employee advisor. And so yeah, I think that was kind of what made me realize not only is it a thing that I'm experiencing, but outside of me it is. And really the trick is to say, how do you be a really cutting edge, innovative, high end wealth management firm? And then how do you take a person who's not going to respond to a lot of the typical behavioral
Hmm.
cues or implement any of that advice necessarily without more hand holding, more empathy, more understanding, without a tinge of shame or guilt? Because that would be like the most hypocritical thing I could do. And
Right.
like, how do you really connect those two? And I think that's really where it's at. So, like, how can you not only be a financial planning expert to be a premier firm in and of itself, but then an ADHD expert and just translating that between the two? That's my daily puzzle to solve, which I love.
Yeah, it's so good and it's so valuable, and I think especially when we initially connected, we're like, oh yeah, we think the same way, and we can completely. So you talk about spreadsheets, and I'm like, I use spreadsheets. I don't like to use them for my financial stuff. I use them more for on the business side of tracking and stuff. But it's figuring out what works best for your brain, your clients' brains, and creating that plan, right? And so I would love if you would share, if when you think of someone that has ADHD and they're thinking about retirement, which naturally we don't always think about the future, we're more in the here and now kind of thing. What are some unique challenges that you see, neurotypical financial advice that overlooks the ADHD brain and retirement planning?
Yeah, great question. And that's most of it, honestly. It's how to retire. Okay. Be willing to give up a little bit of lifestyle now to contribute to your 401k, your Roth IRA, your whatever. And there's no fun in that. There's no dopamine. The benefits of retirement are somewhere off in the future, completely intangible. It's not a today. Like there, I think Dr. Halliwell was the one who said like there's now and there's not now. Right? And retirement's just firmly not now until some crisis hits. That's when I see a lot of your like call it the lower end of the net worth spectrum ADHDers really falling on a hard place ultimately. They just hit some health point, they're a blue collar
Mhm.
worker, whatever it may be, and they go, wow, my body or my brain is not able to provide for me anymore. I hope that my money is. And they're trying to scramble to figure it out. That plus social security, plus working odd jobs until 70. But I think really it comes back to like delayed gratification is the big thing always preached. Being consistent and diligent about putting money into one of these accounts all the time. Max fund your Roth IRA, get up to like the most that you can possibly put in there by the limit every single year.
Yeah.
Do all these things and then you're fine. And also buy and hold index funds or investments and never touch them. Never try to move them around and play the market or timing it, any of that. So it just doesn't really jive for the ADHD mind. And I think that's why we often fall on one side of the fence. It's really hard to be middle class affluent, 1 to 5 million of net worth as an ADHD person. You're either going to be much below that usually, or sometimes the business owners in particular who just knock it out of the park on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, on this show we talk a lot about the debt side of it, and sometimes it is like it's the day-to-day planning too that we lose track of how much time, the time blindness, how much time has gone by. This is really, I'm notorious for this. I thought I paid that bill last month, but actually it was like 2 months ago. Or the irregular bills that come in, and that's kind of like where I fall into is that day-to-day stuff. But you, Caleb, thinking through the bigger picture, the longer term stuff, where you're talking about the IRAs and the and stocks and index funds and things like that. And so that's what I love about partnering together in certain areas, because we really are like this dynamic team of, okay, let's
Yeah.
let's get it going. Like I would love to help set clients up so that when they come to you, that the debt's not a problem. Because when I talk to financial advisors, that is the biggest thing that I hear is the debt part. And then when we add ADHD in there, that is a whole nother layer of challenge that can bring to the equation that I'd love to help people with. But one question I have: what is, if there was like one myth or misconception that people with ADHD believe about saving for retirement, and you could bust that today, what would that myth be, or that misconception?
Yeah, honestly, I think this misconception comes a little bit out of a response to traditional wealth management. The traditional advisor is going to look and say, I can't help you until you get 500K or a million,
Mm,
because they don't really have any other way they can work with people to just give good advice without having to manage the money. And so the people are just kind of left on their own to TikTok or whatever for financial advice. ChatGPT and Claude. And so it creates this mindset of like, oh, I don't have to save now. I know I should be saving. I know every dollar I save as a 20-year old is going to be worth 88 by the time I'm 65, or by age 30, it's going to be worth $35 by the time I'm 65. I know I should get started, but I'm going to out earn all of them. I'm going to grow my business so big, so fast, it doesn't matter that I won't have saved for these first 30, 40, 50 years of my life. I'm going to be fine in the long run. Then I'm going to sell my business just like a tech founder, and I'm going to be rich. And I think honestly, that is a constant thing I'm running against with most ADHD people in general, not just the business owners. It's they assume they can earn their way out of it someday without taking advantage of compound interest, forgetting that they're constantly battling inflation, and their retirement period just with modern healthcare is really long in America now.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, this is you are like really spot on with. I've had some conversations a lot lately with people, 40s, 50s. Like, is it too late? And especially with ADHD, and maybe they've got the debt in as part of that equation, maybe some other financial mistakes, and then they're thinking that retirement is just not even possible. So because we can't get that time back. But what would you want them to hear today if they're in that scenario and they're like, you know what, I can't change what happened in the past, but today is a new day. I want to make a change, and I want to start thinking about this stuff. What do you want to make sure that they hear today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jules. Fundamentally, it's just got to be about mindset, because I could give them any checklist of things like step one, go find a higher paying job. Many ADHD people, like, sure, you jump around, but also very easy to get caught in a job that's just more fun than it is high paying. Or I could say start maxing out the Roths or any of those number ones. But just the big piece from a mindset perspective is telling yourself, I am somebody who's good with money and dedicated to getting better at it. Even if the first half isn't as true, like it's no less true when you make that decision than it was last week when you maxed out the credit card. You're
Yeah.
as good with money as you've ever been, and you're dedicated to getting better. And so, like, create an interest around it and almost a hyper focus for a time, like careful of like riding the tides of hyper focus on it
Sure.
and bothering your spouse or something. Like, I made this budget, I'm going to come impose on you now. Like, I'm sure you see that a lot.
Yes.
They're like, oh, I figured out a way to retire at 55. Like, well, why do I want you to retire at 55? But it's, yeah, just being of that mindset that says, I really can figure this out is very attainable. The first step just comes to believing it, and
Yeah.
action will follow from that in the right order.
Yeah, that is such a good point, because I always tell my clients everything is figure outable. Like,
Yeah.
we can figure this out. There might be some adjustments here and there to make, and like you mentioned, the lifestyle adjustments and those things. All, I mean, we've been through those as people in the financial industry. Like, we've had to make those. Because like you shared at the very beginning, like spending time with your family is very important. Like, our kids are only young for so long, and having the gift of being able to parent, well, sometimes it doesn't feel like a gift, but like
Yeah.
it really is, like thinking through those things and like how we want our life to look like. And maybe retiring at 55 isn't everyone's dream. Maybe it is to continue working later on, but sitting down with someone like yourself to say, hey, this is what I want my life to look like, and kind of dream a little bit, but work on some of that mindset stuff of, this is, let's put a little bit of attention, like you said, it doesn't have to be a lot, but put a little bit of attention on what that looks like long term. And the cool thing about long term financial planning is there's a lot that you can kind of set and forget, which is really a gift in the ADHD brain because
Yeah.
I'm really good at that part. I haven't looked at some of my statements in a long time, and I was like, oh, I'm actually doing a lot better than I realized. And that's the other thing too, like the mindset piece is we might not be as bad off as we think, but we can create these things in our minds. My dad would always say a mountain out of a molehill, because we can
Yeah.
make things a little bit bigger in our minds than they really are. But until you sit down and look at that and sit down with someone that knows all of the nuances of putting a plan together, then you don't know, right?
Yeah. And I feel like just taking that like 1 minute of bravery kind of plunge to like, I'm going to
Mm,
go look at the credit card statement. I'm going to go look at the statements of the investments, the 401k, whatever. And then I'm done. Like only 1 minute. I'm literally going to set a timer. A timer here and do it. And then if you could make that something of a get another person engaged in the process, and whether that's even a friend or a spouse, or that's honestly where I feel like I come in often. People are like, hey, kind of overwhelmed with what to do here, and I've been putting it off because of that. Can you like help me stop putting it off and help me make some goals that I know I need to make, but I'm kind of confused on what to do? And that's like the whole thing is like my job is learn about the people, figure out what their goals are, help them crystallize and actually identify what those values are that they're trying to steward these resources towards. And then figure out, okay, well, what are you doing now? How is it serving you? How is it not serving you? I think these things would be better. So then I'll help you do them. And then we do
yeah,
them. And then I help monitor to make sure it's still getting done
yeah.
and just chase them again and again and again. And that's part of the game. I have a special software system that is meant to help me do exactly that, to help keep chasing and badgering and helping, again, with zero shame as somebody who's a financial advisor and paid $10 extra on a trash bill that got mailed to me last week because you can't auto pay a trash bill or like electric phone shut off, like insert there. I've been there on all of these. So like no shame on all of that stuff. I think that's a really big value prop, and being able to show the fruit of that I can put up on a screen and say, well, now let's just adjust the retirement age here in this planning software. We have so many data
Hmm.
points in here telling me what's going on. You've been telling me you think you're going to work till you're 75. Let's just try 65. That's when you get Medicare. Let's just use that as an example. Okay. You got a 75% chance of success.
Yeah,
I like to see 80, but how do we get to 80? Okay. Another $100 a month into your savings.
yeah.
That's not too bad. Can you make that work with your budget? Well, great. And then like that's where really the fun comes from this, getting to see people's lights going off.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because you just need the person with the dream, and then you can create the plan from there. And I think that's sometimes we can get into the like, oh, it's going to be so overwhelming and it needs to be all of these things, and we're going to have to cut half of our spending back, and it really doesn't have to take a lot. It just, like you said, it has to take one brave step to just say, okay, I'm ready to look at this and face it. And so and face it, not necessarily always in a bad way either, because like for myself, we did that recently, and I was like, oh my stars, this is not as as dire as it feels like. And especially when we start listening to news headlines and things like that, that's one area that I have to focus in on and make sure I'm in the right headspace when I do look into those things, because that can go back to that mindset piece. It can really affect how you see that stuff, how you see your plan, because each one of us has a completely different plan. That's why they call it personal finance, right? Because it's just such a
Mhm.
personalized thing. And then, protecting that mindset and that plan, and that's part of what, you and I both do in different areas of that big plan. So, that's so good, Caleb.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of protection and it's a lot of just making it easier for people. Like I do wills, powers of attorney, and guardianship appointments as a part of my practice, one of my service offerings. And that's always
Mhm.
one of those like, do you have a will? No, I know we should. Like, we don't want the state to pick where our kids are going. Like, well, so did you ever talk to an attorney about, they're probably expensive or like if they have that, yeah, it gave us this huge data gathering package. Like, tell you what, check in the chat. I just sent you a 30-minute Calendly link. Click that. Okay, I'll wait here for like a minute while you pick a time. And
Yeah.
then we're just going to meet then. You just have to show up to this thing that you just said you would.
Yeah.
And we'll talk for 30 minutes. I'll gather all the data and then I'll give you the finished thing and then you're good. A notary comes out to your home and they'll sign it. Like, boom, done.
Yeah.
No, like schedule these appointments, go back and forth, collect all these documents, none of that.
Yeah, yeah. Simplify it as much as possible. It really is a relatively simple process. We just think, and it kind of goes back to that executive function thing. We just need to take one brave step. And so, Caleb, I would love if you would share, if someone says, this guy sounds like he's speaking my language and I need to look at my big big picture. I need to look at my retirement. I need to look and see if, I don't even know if I'm contributing to my Roth or anything like that. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you and learn more about your services?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, kind of depends a little on your DIY comfort level versus wanting somebody to really do it for you and with you. So, just as a special promo here for anybody listening, again, Jewlz, I love what you're doing here at the Debt Rebel. I would just say willing to offer a 30-minute free question and answer time. Like if you just have a couple things that you want to get answered by me, I'm more than happy to do that here. Zero pressure, no kinds of strings attached. Just want to be of service to you with that. Then if you're saying, okay, maybe I've got a handle on where my plan's at currently, like, maybe the inkling of a retirement plan or not even much, like that's a great fit for the 30, like what do I even do from here? But if you say I have kind of an idea, I just want to stress test that some and like have a lot going on, then I typically charge 500 for this, but I think as we talked earlier on, I'll offer it as $300 for the package. And I call it the big picture financial checkup. So you can send over documents ahead of time if you'd like for me to analyze. So all of your investment statements, your tax returns, whatever, I'll look at that. We'll meet for an hour. I'll give a high level, but very detailed set of recommendations based on what I found, based on questions and answers with you. And then you get a detailed but ADHD accessible 3-page executive summary after the call that's going to give you a roadmap for the next couple of years. Happy to meet whomever, wherever you're at. I just want to be helpful to you and just grateful to be here again.
Caleb, thank you. That's so generous. And I think such a great value too, especially to our listeners that are just like, I want to take that brave step now. And so I really appreciate that. Thank you. I'll make sure to include that info in the show
Absolutely.
notes so that you can connect with Caleb. You can follow. He's got some other resources available too. So we'll just connect you to his website and all the ways that you can stay in his world as well. So before we wrap up, but we like to end our guest episodes on the show with a dad joke. As a dad of 5, I'm sure you've got some pretty decent dad jokes.
I wish I was really creative and had a bunch, but I'm just kind of a spammer. And my go-to is constantly the, Dad, I'm hungry from the kids. I'm like, hi, hungry. I'm Dad. And I just stare at them blankly, standing between them and the pantry. I don't think I've ever seen any smiles from this, but it's funny to me.
Man, I love that. Yes. Or like, I'm thirsty. It's like, well, hey, I'm Mom. That's great. It's nice to meet you. And they're just like, what? Especially when they're younger, right? They just look at you like, wait, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're not making any sense.
I think that's it. Oh, their oldest is 7.5. It's so like any more complex than that just confuses them. But that one really, they're just like, no, Dad, I'm hungry. Like I said, I'm Dad.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. That's my kind of stuff too. That's my kind of humor. I so appreciate you, Caleb, for being on the show and sharing your wisdom and an amazing offer also for the listeners to take that brave step and just say, hey, I'm ready to look at the big picture and put a little extra towards that retirement, or maybe just get it started if you haven't started it. So between the two of us, wherever you are in your journey, we are here to help you. And Caleb, thanks again for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Jewlz. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to the Debt Rebel Show today. Ready to take your family budgeting to the next level? Stop that paycheck to paycheck grind and start living debt-free? Head over to my website, debtrebelpodcast.com. That's DEBTREBEL podcast.com to grab resources, tools, and tips to make it happen. And don't forget, subscribe, leave a review, and if you know another family that would love hearing today's episode, it would be such a gift for both of us, your friend and me, if you share this episode. And remember, your debt-free life starts with one brave step, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way. We'll talk soon, Debt Rebel.